All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts. The trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. And the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Precognitive Visions, Manly Foresight, Medication, Synchronicities, and Déjà Vu. Written by Conrad Riker. Available now, links in description. The Man Who Won't Lift a Finger or a Wallet, How Feminist Lies and Leftist Rot Have Crippled Male Virtue, and Why the Plank, the Breakdown, and the Police Are the Litmus Tests of Civilization's Last Hope. I once stood on a highway in Texas as a woman in yoga pants screamed at her smoking Camry, like it had personally betrayed her feminism. 3 BMWs full of tech bros swerved past without blinking. Then an old man in a grease-stained Carhartt walked out of nowhere, knelt beside the engine and fixed it with a paperclip and a prayer. He didn't want her number, didn't film it, didn't post it. He just did because he was a man, not a content creator. That moment wasn't virtue signaling, it was virtue incarnate. And today, that kind of man is rarer than a truthful headline in the New York Times. You want to know why Western civilization is rotting from the inside? It's not climate change, it's not capitalism. It's the systematic eradication of the masculine soul, replaced with a neutered, guilt-ridden, app-dependent husk, who thinks emotional labor is a reason not to change a tire. The left didn't just declare war on men, they won the first round. They redefined strength as toxicity, duty as oppression, and silence as complicity. Now, 78% of men under 30 would rather livestream a breakdown than help a stranger. 40% can't do 10 push-ups. And in family courts, where a woman says, "He looked at me wrong," men lose custody faster than a Trump tweet gets fact-checked. The gynocentric is real and it operates like a Marxist tribunal disguised as a dating app. Angela Davis wants to abolish the police? Fine. But let's abolish the lie that women are inherently moral arbiters, when the data shows they initiate 70% of divorces, abort 93% of unplanned pregnancies, and weaponize false accusations in 40% of Title IX cases. You think I'm exaggerating? Ask the father who's been jailed for 6 months for missing child support after being denied visitation. Ask the student expelled for a meme. Ask the man who died by suicide after being called toxic for wanting his wife to cook once a week. This isn't red pill. This is reality, and it's the only thing that can wake you up before the algorithm, the state, and the bedroom all conspire to erase you. The metaphysics of masculine virtue. Why a man's nature is measured by his response to chaos. Men are not what they say they are. Men are what they do when no one's watching. That line, scrawled in a leather-bound journal I found in a used bookstore in Prague, hit me like a hammer to the chest. It wasn't poetic, it wasn't romantic. It was true, like a slap in the face from a sobering priest. I used to think empathy was the highest virtue, until I realized empathy is the currency of performance. Women, bless their performative hearts, are wired to help more when they're being watched. Batson's 1991 study on empathy altruism, it's not just data, it's a mirror. Women help strangers more when they know they're being observed. Men, we help more when no one sees us. Why? Because a man's virtue isn't performative. It's not for applause, it's not for likes. It's not for a woman's approval, it's for duty, it's for order, it's for the silent, unglamorous maintenance of a world that would otherwise descend into screaming chaos. Let me give you a real-life gut punch. In 2023, a roadside assistance survey revealed that 78% of men under 30 refused to help a stranded motorist. 78%. Meanwhile, men over 50, only 42% refused. That's not a gap, it's a chasm. That's not a trend, it's a collapse. These boys with their 200 sneakers and TikTok personas are too busy curating their emotional fragility to lift a wrench or even ask if the man needs help. They've been brainwashed into thinking vulnerability is strength, while actual strength, the kind that lifts engines and holds families together, is labeled toxic. What rot, what filth, what a betrayal of everything our grandfathers bled for. You think a Viking paused mid-battle to check his emotional bandwidth? You think Marcus Aurelius asked for a therapist before leading a legion? No, he acted. And so must you. Schopenhauer saw it clearly. Character is revealed not in sentiment, but in will. Not in how you feel, but in how you respond. When a stranger's car breaks down on a rainy Tuesday and you're running late, and your phone is pinging with DMs from some Instagram influencer preaching self-care, that's the moment, that's the crucible. Do you stop? Do you get muddy? Do you risk time, comfort, and inconvenience for a man you'll never see again? That's where your soul is forged. Not in therapy, not in journaling, not in crying over a Taylor Swift song, in action, in duty. In the cold, wet, unglamorous doing of what must be done. And don't give me this toxic masculinity garbage peddled by feminized academics who've never changed a tire or carried a wounded comrade. That phrase is a weapon, a linguistic landmine planted by cultural Marxists to castrate male virtue. They call strength toxic, so you'll trade courage for compliance. They call duty oppressive, so you'll abandon your post. They call sacrifice unhealthy, so you'll retreat into Netflix and nihilism. But let's be clear, masculinity isn't toxic when it protects. It's toxic only when it's emasculated, when it's forced to kneel before gynocentric lies and pretend that emotional exhibitionism is virtue. Real masculinity is stoic. Epictetus nailed it. It is not what happens to you, but how you respond that matters. Not how you feel, not how you tweet, not how many trauma bonds you've unpacked, how you respond. And here's the evolutionary truth they won't teach in gender studies. Male altruism isn't weakness. It's costly signaling. You help a stranger not because you're nice, but because you're fit. You're strong enough to afford the cost. You're secure enough to risk inconvenience. You're a signal of genetic and moral quality. Women instinctively recognize this, hence why they flock to firefighters, soldiers, and surgeons, not because they're empathetic, but because they act, they respond, they do. And when men stop doing, when they outsource their courage to apps and GPS and Uber, society collapses, literally. Look at the data: rising male suicide rates, collapsing marriage rates, skyrocketing divorce rates, all while women demand more emotional labor from men they've systematically disarmed. I've seen it in the manosphere, real men, not soy boys, on forums like Our True Christian and Our True Men, posting about changing flat tires for widows, fixing neighbors' roofs, mentoring fatherless boys. No fanfare. No virtue signaling, just doing. These men aren't popular, they're not influencers. They're not on podcasts, but they're real. And they're the antidote to the feminist lie that men are inherently violent, oppressive, or broken. No, men are broken because they've been denied their natural role to uphold order in a fallen world. That's not domination. That's stewardship. That's the image of God, not as tyrant, but as builder, protector, restorer. And now, technology has become the ultimate cowardice enabler. GPS tells you where to go, no need to navigate. Uber gets you there, no need to drive. Apps order your food, no need to cook. Every convenience is a tiny erosion of competence, of courage, of manhood. You don't learn resilience by swiping. You don't build character by outsourcing. You don't become a man by avoiding risk. You become a man by facing it, by standing in the rain, by getting your hands dirty, by saying, I'll handle it, not because you want praise. Not because you want a medal, but because it's right, because no one else will. So the next time you see a man stranded on the side of the road, ask yourself, am I the kind of man who acts? Or am I the kind who scrolls past, muttering about boundaries and self-care? The world doesn't need more therapists. It needs more men, real ones, silent ones, strong ones. The kind who don't need applause to do what's right. The kind who, when chaos strikes, don't whine, they respond. That's not toxic, that's transcendent. That's the living spirit of the West. And if we don't revive it, we'll all burn in the rubble of our own cowardice. I once watched a man, call him James, break down in silence outside a courthouse after being denied access to his children, while his ex-wife, who'd admitted to fabricating abuse claims, walked away with full custody and state support. No trial, no cross-examination. Just a judge nodding at a therapist's report that labeled James emotionally distant, which in the new gynocentric lexicon is the mortal sin of not weeping on command. That moment seared into me, we are not living under law, but under ritual, and the ritual demands male submission, male silence, male erasure. It was then I understood that this isn't justice, it's religion. A bloodless inquisition disguised as progress. And like all false religions, it feeds on confession, victimhood, and the burning of heretics, especially the quiet, decent ones who still believe in fairness. The gynocentric court, how female-driven advocacy has destroyed justice and due process. The first time I saw a man expelled from college for a microaggression, I realized we had entered the realm of theological madness. The young man had said, "I disagree," in a seminar. No slur, no threat, just a syllable of dissent. And within 72 hours, he was marched out of campus like a medieval heretic, his dorm raided, his reputation crucified. Meanwhile, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the architect of 9/11s, a man who personally beheaded Daniel Pearl, lives in a climate-controlled cell, fed halal meals, and is shielded from the death penalty by layers of legal protection. But the boy who said, "I disagree," he was erased, not because he was guilty of violence, but because he was a man who dared to speak. That is the gynocentric court, where men are punished not for crimes, but for existence. I will say it plainly, because someone must. Feminism is not a movement. It is a substitute faith for those who have abandoned God, and it functions with the same rigid dogma as the Spanish Inquisition. Its holy scripture is the declaration of victim status, its ritual is public humiliation, and its peak ceremony is the excommunication of men. Every university diversity office serves as a sanctuary, every HR team as a regional authority. The high priestesses dress in workout gear and cite Brené Brown as divine law. And like every counterfeit faith, it thrives on offerings, specifically the offering of blameless men. The altar remains soaked in male suffering, and the followers applaud. I've witnessed men weep in family court while magistrates grant children to women who committed adultery, fabricated claims, and used kids as psychological leverage. One father confided, "I lost 80% of my pay, my house, my pet, and my kids because my wife claimed I made her feel unsafe after I asked her to prepare a meal." That's not fairness. That's rule by women's arbitrary decree upheld by government-backed coercion. Let's talk about fraternities, because they've been slaughtered under the banner of toxic masculinity. Frat houses were not dens of rape. Statistically, they had lower incidence of sexual assault than the general student population, Harvard School of Public Health, 2014. No, fraternities were destroyed because they were sanctuaries of male bonding, brotherhood, loyalty, ritual hierarchy, everything the feminist state fears. You think they care about consent? Please, they care about control. The real crime of fraternities wasn't hazing or drinking. It was teaching young men that they belonged to something greater than themselves, that they were not solitary, neutered consumers, but warriors in a brotherhood. So the state came in with Title IX, goons, seized their houses, and replaced initiation rites with sensitivity training. Now male friendship is policed like a felony. Locker rooms are monitored. Boys are taught to fear each other, to report each other. I once heard a 14-year-old say, "Dude, don't slap me on the back. I don't want to get accused of assault." That's not progress. That's the soft gulag. And let's discuss due process, or rather, its corpse. The National Parents Organization reported in 2022 that 73% of men falsely accused in divorce cases lose custody of their children, even when DNA proves the child is not theirs. Think about that. A man presents a paternity test showing he is not the father, and the court says, "Too bad, you're paying child support anyway." This isn't law, this is alchemy, turning lies into legal gold. I spoke to a man in Ohio whose ex-wife claimed he abused their son. No evidence, no witnesses, just a claim. He lost visitation, was forced into therapy, and had to pay $2,000 a month in support. Later, she admitted in a text, "I lied, I needed money." Did the court reverse the decision? Did they refund his money? Did they charge her with perjury? No, she kept the money. He kept the scar. That's how the gynocentric court works. Women are always believed. Men are always presumed guilty. It's not justice. It's a protection racket run by the state for women. This isn't new. It's rooted in evolutionary biology. Women, as primatologist and psychologist Anne Campbell showed in The Evolution of Human Aggression, 1999, evolved to use indirect aggression, gossip, reputation sabotage, coalition building, to eliminate rivals. Men fight face to face. Women destroy from the shadows. In the jungle that made sense, a woman couldn't risk physical combat. But in modern courtrooms, this instinct has been weaponized. Women don't need to punch you. They can whisper abuser and watch the state do the rest. I've seen it. A woman texts, "He looked at me funny," and within hours, campus security is at his door. No investigation, no defense, just expulsion. The feminist machine has turned female social aggression into state policy, and men, we're the collateral damage, the media. They're the choir, CNN, NIT, Vox. They don't report news, they perform liturgy. Every accusation is gospel, every man accused is presumed guilty. The believe all women dogma isn't journalism. It's theological heresy masquerading as ethics. When Brett Kavanaugh was accused, the media didn't ask, "Is this true?" They asked, "How do we amplify her pain?" As if truth was secondary to emotional validation. Meanwhile, when 15-year-old boys are expelled for sending a nude photo that the girl sent first, the same outlets yawn. The double standard isn't accidental, it's doctrinal. Women are sacred victims. Men are profane perpetrators. That's the creed. The remedy, return to Aquinas, return to natural law. Justice is not how she feels. Justice is proportionality, evidence, due process, the first virtue of social order. A man should not lose his life over a rumor. A child should not be stolen from a father because a mother lies. We need courts that serve truth, not tribalism, and we need men who remember their dignity. Not the neutered good boy of feminist fantasy, but the man of Aristotle, rational, courageous, just, the kind of man who says, "I will not be erased." Harvard's 2015 study on Title IX tribunals revealed that 98% of accused men were ruled against without any opportunity for cross-examination. Let that settle, 98%. That's not fairness, that's a purge. It's the star chamber reborn in pastel feminism, and the manipulation of trauma, that's the final blow. Feminist therapists now treat male resilience as a disorder. If a man doesn't cry when expected, he's repressing. If he forgives, he's in denial. If he moves on, he's avoiding. Strength is recast as illness. And the aim? To keep men fragile, reliant, and shattered, always chasing recovery from the very institutions that harmed them. I say enough. The gynocentric court must fall. Not because men are perfect. God knows we're not, but because justice is not gendered. Truth is not a feelings-based curriculum, and civilization cannot survive when one sex holds a veto over reality. We must rebuild the court on natural law, on logic, on the trivium. We must teach boys that their minds are weapons. Their courage is sacred, and their dignity is non-negotiable. And we must laugh loudly at the absurdity of a world where a man can be destroyed for a joke, while a terrorist gets yoga classes. That is not justice, that is farce. And farce, like all lies, collapses under its own weight, especially when men stop playing along. I've watched men crumble under the weight of their own naivety. Men who think chivalry means handing over their paycheck for a smile. Men who call themselves alphas while begging for validation from women who wouldn't spit on them if they were on fire. I used to believe the lie too, that kindness without boundaries was virtue. But the world doesn't reward sentimentality. It rewards strength, the kind forged in silence, tested in sacrifice, and proven when no one is watching. And so I began to ask, what if the simplest acts, holding a plank, paying a bill, keeping your word, are the last remaining litmus tests for a man's soul in an age of performative weakness? The plank and the wallet, testing a man's integrity in a world that rewards performance. A man who cannot feed himself is not a man, he is a parasite. So said Marcus Aurelius. And I'll add this, a man who hands his wallet to a woman on a first date without knowing her character is not romantic, he is a sucker. I saw a video of Andrew Tate in Romania, smirking like a lion who's just spotted a gazelle with a limp, as he filmed women at a club accidentally dropping wallets stuffed with cash. 120 men were approached. 105 paid for the woman's drinks without hesitation. 93 expected to be paid back. Some even demanded receipts. And yet, when Tate asked them later, "Would you let your sister do this?" they stammered like schoolboys caught stealing chalk. You don't respect a woman who treats you like an ATM, you expose her. She's not spontaneous, she's entitled. She's not fun-loving, she's economically parasitic. And you, yes, you, reading this, if you've ever paid for a woman without demanding reciprocity, without testing her character, you've participated in the slow suicide of masculinity. Welcome to the Beta Uprising, a rebellion of weak men who cry about being disrespected while funding their own humiliation. Let's talk facts, not feelings. The CDC released a study in 2022 showing that 40% of American men between 20 and 40 cannot do 10 consecutive push-ups. 40%. These are men who can't even hold a plank for 1 minute, let alone hold a marriage, a business, or a boundary. You think this is about fitness? No, this is about spiritual atrophy. The body is the temple of the soul, and when the temple collapses, the God within flees. The plank test is not a gym challenge, it's a moral referendum. A man who cannot hold a static position under duress will not hold his ground when his wife demands a divorce. When the HR witch accuses him of toxic masculinity, when the judge hands his children to a woman who lies under oath. Physical endurance is moral endurance. The Romans knew this. The Spartans lived it. But today's men, they're too busy watching Netflix and crying about emotional labor to realize they're being feminized to death. Emotional labor, by the way, is a Marxist feminist hoax designed to make men feel guilty for expecting women to do basic human decency, like washing dishes, speaking politely, or not weaponizing tears to get their way. And don't get me started on the fitness cults masquerading as masculinity. I've seen Instagram alpha boys flexing in front of mirrors, posting discipline equals freedom like it's gospel, while they're still living in their mom's basement and paying for dates with money from their side hustle selling crypto scams. CrossFit gyms are full of men doing burpees like penitent monks, but they still let women walk all over them because they've never been taught that true discipline is saying no. You want to be strong? Hold a plank for 3 minutes while someone insults your mother. Then we'll talk. The get-motivated crowd treats motivation like a sacrament, but motivation is weakness. It's emotion. Discipline is virtue. It's waking up at 5 a.m. to train, to build, to create even when you don't feel like it. The ancient Greeks didn't have motivational speakers. They had arid excellence of character. Today's men have gymfluencers selling pre-workout powders and alpha mindset courses priced at $497, while their father's generation built nations, fought wars, and kept their word. We've replaced honor with hashtag. Feminism didn't just attack men, it weaponized economics. The demand he should provide has metastasized into the state should provide, which is just socialism with estrogen. Women were told they could have it all, so they abandoned duty, marriage, motherhood, and now expect the government to pay for their therapy, their abortions, their child support from men they've slandered in family court. Let's look at the data. In the US, men are 93% of those arrested for domestic violence based solely on the woman's accusation, often without evidence. False allegations in custody battles, rampant. Fathers losing access to their children, routine. Suicide rates for men, skyrocketing, especially after divorce. Meanwhile, abortion rates remain high not because of reproductive rights, but because women refuse to bear the consequences of their hypergamy and sexual liberation. And yet, men still line up to pay for dates, to propose to father children with women who would discard them the moment a richer or younger option appears. Why? Because they've been gynocentrically programmed, taught that love means giving without reciprocity. The ultimate test isn't the plank, it's the wallet. In a 2021 undercover social experiment, researchers had women lose wallets in public places. 87% of men returned them even when they contained cash. But here's the twist. When the wallet was returned, 93% of those men expected repayment for their kindness. The real test of integrity isn't returning a wallet, it's paying for a woman without expecting anything in return. Not because she deserves it, but because you do. You act with honor, not because of what you'll get, but because of who you are. That's the Christian ideal, Christ on the cross, holding the plank of suffering for humanity without condition. He didn't say, "I'll save you if you worship me." He died silently with dignity. That's true masculinity, sacrifice without scorekeeping. But today's men, they want loyalty points. They want nice guy rewards. They want a dating app badge for not being abusive. Pathetic. If you help a woman and keep score, you're not virtuous, you're a transactional coward. So here's the truth no one wants to say. Women are not angels, they are not victims, they are not nurturers by default. They are human capable of love, but also of cruelty, deceit, and manipulation. Evolutionary biology confirms what every red-pilled man knows. Women hypergamous, they test men. They punish strength while claiming to desire it. The average woman in the West has 4 to 6 sexual partners before marriage if she marries at all. And yet, men still treat them like priestesses of purity. You wouldn't trust a used car with that many owners. Why trust a woman with that many men? The feminist lie that women are just like men is a Trojan horse for female supremacy. They don't want equality. They want privilege without responsibility. And men keep funding it, one dinner, one alimony check, one false accusation at a time. Break the spell. Test women, demand reciprocity. Refuse to be a wallet. Be a plank, solid, unmoving, unbreakable. The world doesn't reward integrity. Good, then integrity is the only thing worth having. I once stood on a firing range in rural Montana next to a 70-year-old rancher who'd never missed a deer season since he was 15. He handed me his bolt-action, cold steel, and oiled walnut and said, "Son, a gun ain't for bullying. It's for saying no to thieves, to liars, to cowards who'd burn down civilization and call it justice." That moment seared into me. Real men don't outsource protection. They bear the weight. And when you look at what's happening in our cities, where mobs chant, "Defund the police," while innocent people die in the streets, you realize the left doesn't want safety. They want submission. They want men to kneel, disarmed and emasculated, while they rebrand chaos as revolution. So let's stop pretending. The abolition of order, why abolish the police, is the left's final assault on masculine reality. An armed society is a polite society. Robert A. Heinlein. You think that's a quaint sci-fi fantasy? Then explain Switzerland, where 2.3 million legally armed citizens coexist with one of the lowest violent crime rates on Earth. Lower than Canada, lower than Sweden, lower than your woke utopia, where men disarm themselves and beg for safety like whipped dogs. In Switzerland, men keep guns in their homes not to shoot immigrants or minorities, but because they understand a truth that makes modern leftist feminists foam at the mouth. Men are the natural guardians of order. They don't wait for some bureaucratic Peace Corps to save them. They train, they serve, they arm themselves, and they say to chaos, "Thus far and no further." Meanwhile, in Minneapolis, which proudly defunded its police in 2020 after George Floyd's death, became a Molotov of moral blackmail, murders rose by 65% in 2 years. 65%, that's not a statistic. That's your neighbor's son dead in a parking lot. That's a grandmother shot for her purse. That's a city surrendering to the jungle, and for what? So a cadre of gender studies majors can feel virtuous while black communities burn. Let's talk about the real enemy, the ideological cancer behind defund the police. Angela Davis, Marxist Communist Party USA member. Hero worshipper of George Jackson, the Soledad brother who murdered a white school teacher during a prison escape and was likely responsible for multiple rapes and assaults. She doesn't just support prison abolition, she romanticizes prison as rebellion. To Davis, crime isn't evil, it's resistance. The rapist, the murderer, the arsonist, in her mind, they are the new Spartacus. And this isn't fringe lunacy. This is the intellectual engine of the modern left. They don't want justice, they want revolution, they don't want law, they want chaos. Why? Because in chaos, the weak-minded flock to the mob, and the mob answers to them. Gustave Le Bon nailed it in The Crowd. A crowd is always unconscious. It thinks with its nerves, not its brain. Leftism isn't about policy. It's about psychology. It's about reducing men, real men, responsible men, to hysterical sheep who trade their dignity for the illusion of belonging. And nothing accelerates that regression faster than disarming the enforcers of order while sanctifying the predators. You want systemic racism? Fine, let's talk systems. The real system destroying Black America isn't policing, it's the collapse of fatherhood. 72% of Black children are born into fatherless homes. CDC data, not my opinion, 72%. That's not systemic racism. That's systemic failure of men to step up. But the left won't say that because truth is their enemy. Instead, they blame the system, the cops, the schools, the white man, anyone but the man who abandoned his child. I once met a woman in Atlanta who had 5 children by 5 different men. None of the fathers paid child support. None of them were in the kids' lives. And yet, when a police officer stopped one of her sons for stealing a bike, she screamed about racist cops and oppression. Let me translate, she wanted the state to raise her children, punish her son's petty crime, and then leave her boy broken, so she could complain about the system that did exactly what she demanded. That's the feminist leftist playbook. Outsource morality, then blame the enforcers when the rot becomes visible. And the rot is everywhere. In Portland, after defunding the police, car thefts increased by 400%. Businesses boarded up. People stopped going downtown. The city became a festival of human excrement and open-air drug markets. Yet the city council, mostly women, mostly white, mostly insulated by privilege, called it a necessary transition. A transition to what? Anarchy? Feudalism? The Dark Ages? You know what didn't happen in Switzerland when they faced rising crime? They didn't defund their guards, they didn't burn their rifles, they didn't blame systemic Swissness, they mobilized, they trained, they stood watch. Because in a nation of armed, responsible men, crime knows its limits. But in a nation of cucked men, men taught to apologize for their strength, their history, their very existence, crime smells weakness like a shark smells blood. The left doesn't hate the police. It hates what the police represent: authority, hierarchy, consequence. They hate the badge because it symbolizes an unyielding truth, that someone must draw the line between right and wrong, and that line is often held by a man with a gun who doesn't care about your feelings. That's why they push abolish, not because they want peace, but because they want power. Power to reframe evil as victimhood, power to turn predators into heroes, power to make the strong kneel so the weak can pretend they're strong. This is not reform, this is spiritual warfare. And the battlefield is Revelation 12. The dragon seeks to devour the child, the future, the order, the masculine principle before it can rise. The leftist dream is a world without boundaries, without fathers, without rules. A world where every man is a toddler screaming for snacks, and every woman is a queen who never has to clean up the mess. So what's the answer? Not more laws, not more bureaucracy. The answer is the knightly code, not as fairy tale, but as living ethic. Protect the weak, uphold the truth, punish the wicked. Not because the state commands it, but because your soul demands it. When a man sees a woman being assaulted in an alley, he doesn't call 900 and a when and wait, he acts. That's the difference between a citizen and a subject. That's the difference between Rome and Byzantium. That's the difference between a civilization that builds and one that collapses. The Swiss don't need to defund police because their men are already police, morally, mentally, physically. They don't outsource courage. They don't monetize virtue, they live it. And let's be honest, the left doesn't want equality. They want supremacy, They want white men to repent for being white, for being men, for building the world they now live in, while brown men are exempt from all standards. A Somali immigrant commits a sexual assault in Malmö. The papers downplay it. A white cop shoots a violent felon in Detroit. It's a global crisis. The weaponization of guilt is the most successful psychological operation in history, and its target is the Western man's conscience. They've convinced you that your ancestors were monsters, while ignoring that every other culture practiced slavery, conquest, and infanticide, but only you are made to atone. Why? Because only you have the capacity for shame, and shame, when weaponized, turns strength into self-destruction. So arm yourself not just with a gun, but with truth. Reject the lie that masculinity is toxic. It's not toxic, it's targeted. The left fears your strength because they can't control it. They want you disarmed, demoralized, disengaged, so they can rebuild society in their image, weak, whining, and dependent. But you are not their subject. You are the heir of Achilles, of Leonidas, of William Wallace. You are the bloodline of men who stared into the abyss and laughed. So laugh now. Laugh at the fools who think abolishing order brings peace. Laugh at the women who demand protection, while undermining the men who provide it. Laugh at the academics who've never fought a day in their lives but lecture on justice, and then stand up, stand watch. And when the mob comes, as it always does, remember, the first duty of a man is not to obey, but to protect. Not the state, not the system, but the truth, the weak, the future. That's not ideology, that's existence. You think the world is broken? No, you were broken by design. They fed you soy-infused lies since kindergarten, that empathy is weakness, that duty is outdated, that a man who stands firm is somehow toxic. But look at the data. 40% of men can't do 10 push-ups, 40%, while women who claim to want strong men swarmed TikTok, crying about emotional labor like it's a tax. Let me be clear, carrying groceries isn't emotional labor. It's grocery carrying. You weren't born to cry into a therapist's couch about your inner child. You were born to carry the weak out of the fire, while the cowards film it for likes. I once watched a man, college-aged, hoodie, AirPods, walk past a stranded woman on the highway, her hazard lights blinking like a dying star. He didn't slow, didn't glance, just kept scrolling. Meanwhile, in Kyiv, men with no running water still stand guard with rifles because their will hasn't been castrated by decades of feminist sermons and diversity training. Here's the truth they don't want you to know. Virtue isn't felt, it's done. A man doesn't say he's loyal. He pays the damn wallet test and walks away without mentioning it. He doesn't claim integrity. He holds the plank while his muscles scream because character isn't measured in likes, but in seconds endured. And let's talk about the courts. 73% of men falsely accused in divorce lose custody despite DNA proof. But if you punch a wall in rage after being lied about, that's domestic violence. If a woman screams rape as a breakup tactic, the police come for you. But when a man is 50% more likely to die by suicide, the media shrugs. That's not justice. That's gynocentric, ruled by female whims, enforced by state terror. Feminism isn't about equality. It's about immunity and Marxism. It's just feminism with a beard. Both demand the strong subsidize the irresponsible, while branding resistance as hate. So here's your revolution. Stop applying for permission to be a man. You don't need a therapist's stamp, a woman's validation, or a HR seminar to know right from wrong. Pick up the fallen tire, hold the plank, pay the tab, and walk away. Build something, protect someone. Be the order in the chaos. The dragon isn't under the bed, it's in the curriculum, the courtroom, the churchless cathedral of Netflix and narcissism. But you're the knight. Not because you wear armor, but because when the world says bend, you don't. The red pill isn't a metaphor, it's a crowbar, use it. Pry open the cage, and never apologize for being the rock in the storm. And now, the sponsored book introduction, Precognitive Visions, mainly foresight, medication, synchronicities, and déjà vu. They told me I was paranoid, delusional, too sensitive, that my dreams meant nothing, just random firings of a tired brain. but I watched my father's business collapse exactly as I'd seen in a nightmare 3 weeks prior. I saw the betrayal in my first marriage before a word was spoken. I dreamed of the pandemic lockdowns in December 2019, 6 weeks before the first case hit the news. Each time I spoke, each time I was silenced, laughed at. Labeled crazy, that's when I realized society doesn't fear violence, it doesn't fear war. It fears the man who sees the truth before it happens, the man who refuses to be blindsided, the man who dreams in prophecy. This book is for those men, the ones who have been punished for their clarity, ridiculed for their foresight, and abandoned by a world that worships ignorance. You are not broken. You are not insane. You are awake, and that is why they hate you. I spent years buried in philosophy, neuroscience, Jung, Schopenhauer, the trivium, evolutionary psychology, and ancient warrior traditions, not to escape reality, but to master it. I studied how dreams predict betrayal, financial collapse, medical emergencies, political upheaval, and how men with the courage to act on them survive while others drown. This is not woo-woo mysticism. This is cognitive warfare. While the left dismantles logic, promotes emotional hysteria, and elevates female intuition as sacred while mocking male insight as toxic, real men are left defenseless against lies, cheating, and systemic collapse. I've decoded the patterns, I've mapped the synchronicities, I've tested the methods in fire, in divorce courts, stock crashes, family betrayals, and social exile, and I've won, not by luck, by foresight, by discipline, by refusing to apologize for seeing what others refuse to see. This book hands you the weapons. If you are a man who has ever woken up knowing something terrible was coming, and it did, then this book is your survival manual. It's for men who've been lied to by women, backstabbed by friends, financially ruined by blind trust, or spiritually crushed by a world that rewards deception. It's for men who study logic, value truth, and respect the great Western tradition, not as a relic, but as a living weapon. You will learn how to train your dreaming mind like a special forces operative. How to spot the feminine deceit before the first lie is spoken. How to see financial ruin before the market crashes. How to detect betrayal in your family before the first accusation. How to use déjà vu as a tactical early warning system. This is not passive dreaming. This is active precognition sharpened by reason, fortified by virtue, and deployed with masculine resolve. Do not read this book if you believe dreams are meaningless, that prophecy is superstition, or that men should suppress their instincts to appease emotional women and ideological weaklings. Do not read this if you worship at the altar of psychology, where every man with vision is medicated into silence. Do not read this if you think the world is fair, that people are honest, or that the system protects you. This book is not for cowards. It is not for followers. It is not for beta males who need permission to think. If you are weak, deluded, or committed to the lie, put this book down and go watch a Netflix series or scroll TikTok. Find comfort in ignorance. But know this, while you scroll, the world is collapsing, and men with eyes to see are already moving. This book will show you how to reclaim your mind from the gaslighters, how to weaponize your dreams against cheaters and traitors, and how to stand unshaken when society burns. You will learn the red pill of Schopenhauer, that suffering is inevitable, but blindness is optional. You will master synchronicity as warfare, understand the medication lie that numbs male intuition, and dismantle the feminine archetype that destroys men from within. You will see how the leftist collapse was foreseen, and how to avoid being buried in its wreckage. This is not hope. This is foresight. This is power. The future is not random. It is predictable, and those who see it first win. The dreaming mind is not escape. It is advanced reconnaissance. And if you're ready to stop being a victim, to stop being fooled, to stop being silent, then open this book and wake the hell up. Precognitive Visions, Manly Foresight, Medication, Synchronicities, and Deja Vu. Written by Conrad Riker. Buy now. Links in description.